Alright, CIS 106 students, in this module, or in this week, we're going to be focusing on arrays. So as you might expect, there's a good bit of literature to read about arrays, so when you get into this, you will see content that introduces us to the structure of array. An array is basically a data structure that stores content. So I like to think of it, actually, this doesn't take too long to open up. I can maybe show you, that might take a minute to open up. But really an array is, I know you can't see this with that in the way now, sorry about that. So an array is basically, it's a data structure that stores a collection of something. So here's how I like to think of an array. So let's imagine we had this box of, it's kind of like a house, and this is kind of a house in which all of these numbers live. We're going to call this house nums, and inside nums is going to be these sub-compartment boxes, and we could really store anything we want in arrays. I like to think of it as one big collection of some kind of data structure, some kind of data, primitive data type. So this thing is called nums, and inside it we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, in this case 9. We have 9 numbers. And I can put whatever I want in here, really. In this case, I'm going to put just random integers. I'll do a 3, and then 5, 7, 9. I'm just making these up. 4, could be any. I'm just doing integers to make this hopefully easier. And then just randomly assigning values. So we have 9 random integers. So the total of these is 9. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 integers. If we wanted to refer back to each one of these, we could say, well, this first box is box number 0. So each one of these boxes is referred to with an index number. And the first index number is box 0. Notice that we end, in this case, with box 8, because the whole range of these, there's a total of 9 boxes, but the range is from 0 to 8. So this is a index range of 0 to 8 for a total of 9 elements, or 9, in this case, 9 integers. We can have whatever we want in an array. We can have strings, doubles, floats, booleans. We can even have objects in an array, and we can have an array of arrays. But just be aware that anytime you work with arrays, it is essentially, it's just a collection of some kind of data. In this case, this simple example here, this is a collection of integers. That's all this is. So when we go to read about arrays, you'll see that they'll explain how you can create an array using the syntax with square brackets. And we've seen this before. We've actually seen this inside main. So now we should know that when we call main, main really is bringing in an array of arguments. It's a string array is what it really is. Still may not totally understand. That might be a little abstract to us, but you should have a better understanding of that. But here they're saying we can have a collection of strings, an integer, a double. If we create this string array called name list, here we're saying we want to have 1,000 strings in this new memory space. So this statement just declares, and this says when we create this string name list, we want to set aside memory space for 1,000 strings. Here we're creating an array of integers called A, and when we create the collection of integers called A, here we want to set aside memory space for 5 new integers. And for prices, we want to set aside memory space for 100 new doubles. So every time we go to work with these arrays, we can refer back to them as a particular position. So like back in my example, if we wanted to see what was in nums, say box 2, we'd be working with nums square bracket at index 2. Now we could put this in a system.out.println, or we could assign it a value. In this case, we could say, well, we want to assign it, like here I'm assigning it a 7. I can say that num square bracket 2 is assigned a 7 in this example. So as you read through on arrays, just make sure you understand that arrays can be many different types of data, and the way in which we put values in as well as get them out can be different. There's several different ways to actually assign values. This is probably the easiest way to assign values to an array. So here we're using this curly bracket syntax, curly bracket. In this example, this is an array initializer list. The only time you would really use this is if when you create the array, you know what values you're going to put in it. Like in my example, if I know I'm going to put in 3, 5, 7, 9, 4, 12, 15, 14, 62, I would use this method. You're usually not going to know that. You're usually going to be creating the array and the user's going to tell you what goes into it. That's usually going to be the case. So when you go to process information with an array, it's the same thing as anything else. It's just because this is an integer. That's an integer. It's an individual value, whether it's an integer, string, double, whatever it is. So you're going to process them the same way you would anything else. So you'll see I'm going to refer to these examples in your assignments for this week, but just be aware that it can get a little tricky with arrays. Like if you want to copy an array, what this would do here is this would say I want to assign the array double A. I want to set it up as it is 3 doubles. Sorry about that cute little song. That's our laundry machine. So now this array is going to be simply pointing to the same memory space. This doesn't really make an exact copy. This actually points to the same memory space. That's what this does. If you want to make a copy, the way you'd have to do it is actually copy one value one at a time, inside a loop like this. We can also get the length back of an array using .length, and you'll see that. I'll talk about that in one of the assignments coming up. Alright, so some other information you'll need to look at for arrays. I didn't pull out everything in here, but you can go ahead and look at some of the other information, such as those details of the array, or the processing we've already seen, how to create an array. This is just another example of how to do that. So it can have arrays of objects. I'm not going to ask that you do this. It gets a little bit, it's kind of abstract. It gets a little muddy, but you can have an object of arrays, or excuse me, an array of objects, which is kind of cool. And then they show you how to search and sort arrays. So just some stuff to read through. Luckily for you, don't have to totally master this and become the guru of this, but just be aware that you should be vaguely familiar with how we use arrays to store information, and it's really nice to be able to, you can easily search and sort arrays. Now another section that comes up in this week, I can't get back very easily, can I? Alright, I'm going to have to kind of cheat here a second, so sorry about this. So one thing that we can do is, if we want to actually sorry about this, if we want to actually look at some more stuff on arrays, you'll see that we have another type of array. This is a very special kind of array in Java. There's one limitation, I guess I should mention this. Arrays, once you create them, you're locked into that size. So if you have you have a string called suits and you have 4 new strings, that array is never going to change size. It's a very static value. Whereas an array list can grow and shrink as you need it to. So array lists are kind of cool, and there's a little bit different syntax for them. They're a very different thing that we haven't seen before, because you have to use this left and right angle bracket when you create them. Again, I'm not going to ask that you use array lists, but they are kind of cool, and if you want to do more programming, you will run into them. Because the really nice thing with array lists is they will grow and shrink as you need them to. You can see that you can use this .add method, or you can use .get, or hopefully someone here should mention, like you can use, you can remove, and you can insert values. So actually you wouldn't insert using .add, but so array lists will grow and shrink. Here we go. So you can use remove, you can specifically find an index, a value at an index. You can get the size of an array list. So array lists are kind of cool in that they will grow and shrink as you need them to. So they give you the whole API. API is an acronym in programming, Application Programming Interface. It's basically all the documentation from Oracle, who owns Java, all the stuff on array lists, and then some more in-depth information on array list structures. Okay, so one last thing in this week that you should read through is software integration, just some material to read through, and how to use arrays with CSV file, which stands for comma separated value. A CSV file is sort of kind of like Excel. Again, this is not anything I'm going to ask that you do, but you should read through this information as well. So I have made some videos trying to help you with the 2 assignments you have with arrays for this week. So I've made actually a couple videos. This video right here goes through a little bit more in depth of what I just talked about. It's just a video explaining arrays. And then this video explains your programming activity. There is no there's no PDF, there's no file. So in order to complete this activity, you're going to have to walk through this video. So hopefully that is not terrible for you, but you have to walk through the video, and it will show you how to make this assignment employee hours.java. And then this video will help explain what this PDF is asking for with your array programming exercise for Module 19. So there's one more thing that's going to appear. It's not here right now, but you're going to see Quiz E, which is specifically on Module 19 on arrays and array lists. So you should read through this material, make sure you're vaguely familiar with arrays and array lists. And that will be it for week 8. Good luck.